Actually, today, very nearly the session did not happen. I had some series of commitments today, and I almost decided that in the morning I will not have the session today. But I said no. One of the things that we learn from Bhagavad Gita itself is that you should have consistency and determination in whatever we do. So no matter whatever is a compulsion, we should do it. And just about 5 minutes ago, the internet went off. And I thought, no, I think we will have to cancel it. And just 2 minutes back, it started again. Not 15 minutes ago, it went, and 2 minutes back, it started again. So when there is a determination that it has to happen, it will happen. Chalo, that's the way it is. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are entering chapter 7 today, and chapter 7 is about Jnana Vijnana Yoga, knowledge and wisdom. That is what we are going to be talking about today. So let us quickly recap on what we did last week. We started off this entire exercise of knowing our life, like I own my life, in the understanding of how we must act, how we must think, how we should respond to our emotions. So this is what we wanted to learn, that in our life, in all the things that we do, in the way we feel, in the way we think, in the way we act, how is it that we must be, what should be our attitude. But we also knew that through all that, the unchanging principle which enlivens our actions, which enlivens our thoughts, which enlivens our emotions, is that principle, God consciousness, higher principle, life principle, call it whatever you like. There is that unchanging principle. We perform differently through our personality layers. So through our personality, our expressions are different at any given moment. And it is different for each individual. I may think and I may act and I may feel differently than you. And for me to work like that, integration of this bodily functions, of this mental emotional function, of this thinking function, this integration is necessary in us. Only then that higher principle can work in us effectively, because the higher principle will simply work the way we provide our own personality to work with that principle in operation. So now the question is, can we see that principle? Can we experience that principle? Obviously, this is a doubt that we encountered last time. And why are we not able to see it? Why are we not able to experience it? And what happens if we don't experience it? What happens if we don't really understand what it is? Will all my efforts in this direction go waste if I don't understand, if I don't feel, if I don't see? Why some of us get this experience early and why some of us never do it? Why such a thing happens? This also we sort of saw last week. And then we, towards the end, when I put up the example of that satellite which became the observer, we understood the distinction between the observer and the observed. That like that satellite which is there, that is the observer, and the observed, even including our own mind, body, mind and intellect, is the observed, because now we are in a position to transcend this equipment and see beyond. So I had a query. In fact, I used a word that you climb over your mind and intellect and you are in a position to experience or see that principle in operation. Now, it is important for us to understand this. There was this query, so I just want to elaborate a little bit on this. It is important for us to understand that with our limited intellect, what is limited intellect? Yes, intellectually, whatever I am telling you, with the intellect that I have, I am in a position to understand. I am able to put it into words. You are able to understand those words. You are able to see the meaning of those words. So with that limited intellect, we are in a position to gain that knowledge. Oh yeah, this is possible. This seems very logical. This seems very understandable. So we are in a position to understand that with our limited intellect. But for that knowledge to become wisdom, The subtle intellect, the higher intellect is required for us to connect. So when I use that word that you climb over your mind and intellect, what really happens is, with the intelligence that we have, we are in a position to understand whatever is explained to us. We are able to understand what is it that we are discussing. But when we go beyond that, trying to know what is that principle which is operating and which is making all this, enlivening all this, we have to drop this intellect that is understanding, which is analyzing. We have to drop that. So when we de-link it from that and then observe, really observe, because there is that observation is different for different people. Each of us cannot say that, I saw it like this. When I saw that, as an observer, when I saw Krishna. Somebody says, I saw space. Somebody says, I saw this. I didn't. The question is not what you see. The question is not what you, how you are able to put it into words. The question is, are you able to disentangle with this entire process of feeling, thinking, and just being there? That being there beyond is that principle in operation, that observer in operation. So we really cannot say that we understand it, because understanding requires this limited intellect. So we can say that we are standing under it, that what we have realized, that principle is the one which is actually enlivening, and my mind, my intellect, my intelligence is actually standing under that. So what is needed of me to know this, and what is my gain in doing this? This is of course another thought we came across. So we also said that greatest are those people who are focused on this self exploration exercise and who have reached that highest reality, and from there they are in a position to benefit others by the way they share, by the way they work, the way they interact. They are in a position to benefit others by sharing what they have, knowing fully well that they are nothing but this life principle which is manifesting through their own individual personality. So this is what we sort of understood last time, because now this becomes a little more detailed. I will play verse 1 to 7 of chapter 7.
अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनाः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु। ज्ञानं तेऽहं सविज्ञानमिदं वक्ष्याम्यशेषतः यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यज्ञातव्यमवशिष्यते। मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः। भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इतीयं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा। अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम्। जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय। अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय। मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव।
So now the question that comes first and foremost when we understand all these things, the first question that will come to our mind is, I know whatever you're saying is fine. You know that there is a life principle which is operating and that is working through us. There is a body, there is a mind, there is an intellect. All that is fine. How can I'm a limited personality. I am working in this world with whatever I have understood about my world, my life, I have understood. How I, as a finite personality, can say that I will merge with that infinite personality and then infinite principle? It almost seems improbable. It's just impossible for me to conceive. I can understand one thing. I can understand that I am either a disciple of a teacher or that I am a devotee of some god and I am worshipping. It is understandable to me because there is my guru and me the disciple. There is that god and me the devotee. I am able to identify. Now, how can I identify that I am the same as that highest principle? Seems impossible. So this is what is called as the distinction between the Dvaita principle and the Advaita principle. The Dvaita principle talks about there is a God and there is a devotee. So there is a higher principle and there is somebody who is a devotee, and with that higher principle he is working. And then this is the Advaita principle where you say that that and you are no different. You are that in operation. So this is what we are trying to know. So I mentioned that this integration of knowledge is required. Only then you will be in a position to work in unison. So there is knowledge and there is integration of knowledge into our mind and intellect. Once that is integrated in our mind and intellect, then that becomes wisdom. Now, for example, I have a knowledge that I have a finger, I have a thumb, I have a nose, I have an eye, I have a knee. I have different anatomical parts of my body. This is knowledge. And this collectively is me operating as my body. This much I know because I'm working, I'm talking to you, I'm using my apparatus in discussing with you. Now, for example, either my finger is hurt or my knee is paining, something like that is happening to me. Now, I as a whole person, I am willing to go and pay money to my doctor, to my hospital, any amount that is required to repair that part and get my body treated. Correct? So there is no separation when I as my whole person am willing to get even that small part treated, because as a whole I see me as me only and I don't see any differences. So this collective integration is what my wisdom is about my body. So intellect is the one which gains knowledge from different sources. It gains knowledge from various sources, whatever we learn. Now the subtle intellect that we have, that is the one which discriminates. And this integrates all the knowledge that we have and it makes us realize something. That is how the wisdom grows. For example, we have a hot vessel, a vessel which is on the gas, and it is boiling water. I know when I look at it from there that the water is boiling and then there is a vessel. This is knowledge. I know that it is knowledge. But my wisdom says that I should not touch it with my bare hands. That is wisdom. Hot it is, I know. Wise I will be when I don't touch that which is hot. I gave you that example last time that there was 11,000 kVA this thing line running outside my house. I went and captured it and I was burnt to ashes. Now the wisdom is that I should not touch it under any provocation. By mistake also, by accidentally also, I should not touch it. But I touched it and I turned to ashes. So that is wisdom. Knowledge is that 11,000 kVA volts carries electricity. This is what we understand. So only when my mind is in merger with this highest principle, in faith that there is this higher principle which is working, only then can it understand the principle itself. So you must have first a merger of that mind and intellect with the principle in operation and have faith that it is that principle which is operating. Only then you will be in a position to reach that principle itself. So, for example, I want to do something excellent. How can I do something excellent if I keep on doubting myself? If I doubt whether I can do it, whether I'm able to talk properly, whether I'm able to sing properly, if I keep doubting myself, I will not be able to perform properly. So only when I have full faith in my own ability in whatever I am doing, can I do my best. So similarly, I can realize the highest only if I have faith about its existence and how it rules everything in and outside of me. Now we are all expressing ourselves in our actions, in our thoughts, in our words constantly. This is a constant process. We keep talking, we keep doing something or the other, we keep thinking. We are all buddhijivis, that is what we are called, isn't it? So we keep on doing this. Likewise, when we look at it, plants also express themselves. Plants express through whatever is, like for example, I'm going on a walk. Every morning we go for a walk. As we are going around, there are various trees which are giving shade. There's a lot of greenery. They avoid the sunlight coming to you directly. So there is an expression by those plants also in the way they provide cover or breeze or coolness to us as we are walking. So they are expressing themselves in whatever way they are capable of doing. So the trees are expressing through the shades and fruits. These small plants are expressing through the greenery that they give, or maybe the kind of vegetables they give, or the kind of flowers they give. So there is an expression by every plant life also. Now none of these are possible if the life principle was not operating through them also. What is that energy which goes into them? For example, let's say early in the morning you are watching a nice flower bloom. Beautiful rose, it is blooming. Sunlight is there early morning, and it is that as the sunlight is coming in, the flower is blooming nicely. Now sometime around 4 o'clock in the evening, you go to the same flower, 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, you go to the same flower and found that that flower is like this, fallen down. Now you pluck that flower and you go and give it to your beloved. I want to give you a flower. The beloved say, what is this rubbish? This is not looking nice. Early in the morning, it was nice. That life principle was expressing through whatever it was doing, and it has a life of its own during that period. So it was showing itself in its best splendor when that sunlight was there. Evening, it was not there. So I know intelligently that this life principle was operating through it, and that is how it showed itself in its true colors. So once I know this intelligently, now I will want I'm an intellectual person, so I will want to analyze, seek what is this life principle that is springing forth through that flower, through me. Once I have known that, what is this life principle, what is it that is happening around everything, in me, in the trees, in the plants, in the animals, everything that is going on. Once I know this, there is nothing more that remains to be known, because you know life itself. What is life, how it is happening, how it is manifesting itself. So because we know for a fact that all knowledge that is known to us is springing forth because of this highest principle in operation. So this is like a magic. How it comes, how the the principle comes in operation with us, we don't know. It is invisibly happening every moment to moment, and we are excited in every every moment of life. It's pulsating through us in everything that we do. A song comes to my mind. I think it's a Mukesh song. जाने न नजर पहचान जिगर ये कौन दिल पर छाया मेरा अंग अंग मुस्काया मेरा अंग अंग मुस्काया. My entire being is now flourishing because this life principle is now happening around me, and that is what is springing forth every possibility that is occurring through me. So we all understand in science there are two wings of science. There is a pure science and there is an applied science. What we learn in pure science is the theory of the knowledge of how things operate. I gave you that example last time with that prism. I showed you how the refraction happens. So we know that when light refracts through a prism, it falls into a vibgyor of colors on the other side. This is pure science. Pure physics, we understand it as it is. We apply that when we bring the prism to that sunlight. When the sunlight is happening through the prism, we have applied that and we see the vibgyor in operation. So whatever that we learn is useless unless we are able to apply them to our own progress. So knowledge is incomplete without the wisdom of knowing how we can put it to use. This is very, very important. For example, how can I put it? I know sulfur. For example, we were talking about sugar. Sugar sort of carbonates itself if you heat it without any water. This is understandable because when you put sugar in water and then you boil it, it becomes sugar syrup. But no, you don't put the water and you simply put sugar in a vessel and then you heat it. What will happen to that sugar? The sugar will carbonate by itself. So you apply that sugar you want. Why? Because you want the sweetness of sugar. So you use the sweetness of sugar through a medium which is either water, ghee, whatever that you want to use it for, and then you mix it. So there is a fluid mechanics which is involved in that, which makes the sugar function as what I want it to be function. But the moment I put it as it is into the vessel and heat it, it will simply become carbon. So this is how we need to learn in our own life. We have to put it to use on the basis of what we have learned. For example, now I learned, and there is difference also. I learn it and I apply it, I am an intelligent person. There are many people who learn a lot of things and they don't apply it well. So they don't seem to go to the next stage of application. Because they don't go to the next stage of application, they don't grow beyond. Now I'll give you an example. I have learned physics. In my class I learned physics and I stopped at BSc. Now you were in the class with me, but you joined after BSc, you joined Indian Institute of Science and you did your masters from there. So you grew to the next level from what I was doing in the same stream of knowledge. Now your colleague was there who was also with you in this Institute of Science. He went on and did his PhD from Massachusetts Institute of Technology in America, and he went and completed and became a PhD from MIT. Beautiful. So you remained there in as an MSc. Now his classmate who did PhD with him, he specialized a little further. He did nuclear physics, and he became bigger. Similarly, a lot of other people also did nuclear physics, but only there was only one Abdul Kalam who was able to configure how to make a nuclear missile from India. Of course, Kalam himself did not do it by himself because he had Vikram Sarabhai's background of knowledge, teaching. So he grew like that. So rare are those people who are able to take this knowledge from this level and graduate themselves to higher and higher and higher and become very specialized in that. Similarly, rare are those people who are able to understand this knowledge of this highest principle in operation, work on themselves, work on their mind and intellect, work on themselves and grow beyond and beyond, and to reach and connect with that higher principle. Rare are such people. That's a fact. But we all have to be on that path, because unless you are on the path, how will you excel? So you need to be on that path for excelling. So it is important for us to grow beyond the self-imposed limitations that we have created on ourselves and then grow. How can I give you an example for this? There are, if you look at the evolution pattern, earliest evolution was there was only stones. Then stones became fossils, and then those fossils became plants. The plants grew, and then they went on to become insects, etc., etc., and then they went on to become animals. Animals grew, and then they sort of transformed themselves into monkeys and then man. So this is a process of evolution itself. Now in men also you will find this classification. There are some stone men. No matter what you tell them, they will be where they are. They will not move. जो मांगता है बोलो, मैं जैसा है वैसे ही रहेगा, मैं तो चेंज नहीं होने वाला है. They are such people. Then there are some plant men. The only thing that their interest is that every now and then food which is required for me must come. Plants grow by themselves. They work on the nutrition which is available in the soil plus water which is available and the sunlight. So they will simply grow themselves. They only want food at every given time. You just keep feeding me, I will become fatter. Then there are those animal men whose anger, whose power of destruction is very strong. So they don't mind a damn about harming somebody or creating some trouble for somebody. There are such men also. And then there are some man. Those man are people who understand that this is the principle in operation, and then we want to work towards excelling ourselves, improving ourselves, become contributors to society. They are man. And then there are God men. In these man, those who are able to climb this principle and reach a level where they are in a position to identify with this highest principle in operation and become carriers of happiness and joy and love to others in the world. So this highest principle rests in an eightfold nature. This is the highest principle. The eightfold lower nature is earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, and our ego. Now how I can explain it is like this. We know that the life principle which is in operation through our body, mind and intellect is reason why we are alive. Why this life itself is there and we are transacting with each other on this basis. Now if this principle was withdrawn, what will be our case? We are dead. Correct? So it is this life principle which is energizing everything that we are doing. Once it is withdrawn, we are dead. So this much of understanding we have. Now when we are dead, what happens? We all know that our body consists of 66% of water only. So what happens? This water oozes out of the body or it decomposes. Initially for 3 days it bloats out and then it starts decomposing. So the water starts releasing itself. We are made up of earth, because what happens whenever we are cremated or we are buried or whatever it is, our bones gradually, after all the fluid matter goes away, our bones degenerate and they become one with the earth. They become one with the dust. It consists of fire, because in decay, if you really understand decay, any substance which is decaying, it generates heat. So heat is already there in us. So that heat which is there in us is what is coming out when we die, and that is the decay, heat of decay. And then there is an odor of decomposition. The odor is because we are composed of chemical matter only within us, and that matter, when it is no longer pulsating because of the life principle, it starts decomposing and it lets out an odor in the air. And then what are we doing really? For example, now I am sitting here. If I move from here on the screen, you will see a blank space. So what was I doing here when I was sitting? I was occupying space. So when we look at ourselves, we are only occupying space in this world. When we move away, that space becomes free. It is like a building coming up on a piece of land. It rises to how much? 30 floors, 50 floors, 100 floors and all that. Once that building crumbles, what is left? It is only space. We are also exactly like that. And then we have the mind and intellect, which is making all these matter, our entire body itself work. The mind and intellect is the one which is making it work. And we have our ahankara. Our ahankara, meaning my own identity, that I, me, myself, I am Suresh, I am son of so-and-so, brother of so-and-so. This identity. Now this is a lower fold nature of that highest principle in operation. If you look at the body itself, the body is nothing but inert matter. It is nothing but matter. Now it is the life principle which is enlivening the body, the mind, the intellect, as also my personality. Now when death happens, this principle is withdrawn from all our matter vestures. So we understand that in our life, it is this life principle which is actually making our dreams come true. All the desires that we have, our dreams that we have, it is this life principle which is making all of them happen. A song comes to my mind. कौन है जो सपनों में आया, कौन है जो दिल में समाया, लो झुक गया आसमां भी, इश्क मेरा रंग लाया. So the manifestation of my own colorfulness, my own personality is possible because this life principle is operating through me. Everything that is occurring in the world is nothing but this life principle which is expressing through the matter of our body, mind, intellect, and our the body, mind, intellect experiences that we are facing every moment is nothing and nothing but this life principle which is operating. Now even matter that we are dead, what can I say, inert matter other than our own body, for example this chair, this computer, this camera, how were they created? They were created because there was an intelligence in somebody to work for creation of that matter. Now that intelligence of that person who created was enlivened because that life principle was in operation in that person who created. And then the entire process of manufacture happened, and this camera is there, this laptop is there, this chair is there where I am sitting. So now even these equipment, or what can I say, these apparatus that we are talking about, they are also enlivened because of the creation, because of this principle which was operating through them. So full of this same principle, whether it is a plant, animal or human, this lower nature is expressing expressing itself by this life principle in operation. Now my higher nature, which is my highest principle, that is my higher nature, that is expressing through my lower nature, and that is my personality that you are seeing. What I am, what you are seeing me of today is happening because these elements, these eightfold lower prakriti that I have, this lower prakriti is enlivened by this higher principle, this higher nature of mine, and together collectively is what I am, this personality which I am talking to you. You are the personality who's hearing me. So this entire process is possible because of that. So how can I grow? question that was asked was, how can I grow? How can I become better? So my growth, my becoming better is possible the more and more I de-link myself from this lower prakriti, from this lower nature, from these matter vestures, and I identify myself with this higher nature, which is the life principle that is expressing through all these apparatuses at every given moment. And from the combination of this higher and lower nature in every one of us, not only every one of us, even in plants, in animals, and as I said, even dead matter like a chair or a laptop. From this combination of these two, from the womb of these two, is the entire world of various names, forms that we are experiencing. So if I am meeting somebody else, that person is also coming from the same principle, from this combination. You are meeting somebody else, that person is also coming from the same combination. You are experiencing something in nature, you are experiencing something with plants or animals, anything that you are experiencing in the world, the womb of that is the combination of these two natures, the lower nature and the higher nature. This combination is thus the source of the world itself. And when, like how I explained the idea of death, when death happens, this combination is where everything will go and dissolve at the end. So the death explanation that I gave you earlier, what happens? All the combination of these lower prakritis, earth, air, fire, water, space, all of them, plus my mind and intellect, plus this personality called I, everything will merge into what? Into this highest nature itself. So they all remain there. So another way of looking at it is, I have been giving this example of ocean and waves. Like, for example, the ocean is there, and from the ocean, the waves are rising. And as the waves are rising, they leave the ocean, they rise themselves, and they fall back into the ocean. So, everything is from the ocean, and it comes back into the ocean. So, the manifestation of the waves that we are seeing, like that, the manifestation of this life that we are seeing is coming from that same principle, and it will dissolve and merge into the same principle. So once we know this, we can understand that there is nothing nobler, there is nothing greater, there is nothing higher than this principle. Let us, for example, call it me, because in Gita the word used is me. Krishna is talking about it as me, because we are able to identify that me with Krishna, saying that Krishna is God. So assume for a moment that we are using that word me. So this entire principle, there is nothing greater, nobler or higher than me. So this entire world of various experiences, people, everything is strung like a garland of pearls in an invisible string. I will first give you a picture to explain that. Now this is a garland of pearls. This garland of pearls, obviously all the pearls are strung together in something, otherwise they will not be together. If by chance that what it is strung on breaks, all these pearls will fall apart. Entire necklace will fall apart. We can understand this through a very objective example. Similarly, now can you see the string here? The string cannot be seen, but you can see the pearls. Now assume for a moment, instead of white pearls, there was a red pearl, there was a green pearl, there was a pink pearl, yellow pearl, whatever it is. And assume that each of these color represents each of us. We are all strung together by this life principle. It is this life principle which is connecting all of us. And that life principle itself is unseen. That is the beauty of it. So, like how this string is there, which is holding all the pearls together, like that this life principle is holding us together individually also, through the body when I act, through the mind when I feel, through the intellect when I think. This personality identity of mine as Suresh is made. But what holds all of these together? It is this principle in the form of an invisible string which is holding it together and making this entire function possible. So I will now just play verse 8 to 15 of chapter 7, and we will take it forward from there.
रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं नृषु पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम् बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितम् धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेदि तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैरेभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः.
So if I have understood that this is what is going through me as an individual, all of us, every one of us in the world, it is the same principle which is an operating. So when collectively all of us come together, each of us with our different personalities, we all work together in a cooperative spirit of sharing happiness, sharing love, knowing fully well that it is this life principle which is working through each and every one of us, and that all of us, we know that, and that we are all nothing but like, you know, that pearl garland where this life principle is going through. We are only different in our personalities, and you know, we permeate happiness and love to everybody. This is the way to work. So I'm reminded of a song from Nayadaur, a very popular song. I think I'd taken the mukda of the song earlier, but this lines, I found them very, very nice to share with you. एक से एक मिले तो कतरा बन जाता है दरिया, एक से एक मिले तो जर्रा बन जाता है सहरा, एक से एक मिले तो राई बन सकती है पर्वत, एक से एक मिले तो इंसान बस में कर ले किस्मत, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, एक अकेला थक जाएगा मिलकर बोझ उठाना. So together when we work in this understanding that by how this pearl necklace is wound together under the same principle, each of us can work together. Each of us can share happiness, each of us can share love. The world will be such a beautiful place to live, and we ourselves will be so happy and we'll be carriers of that love. So there are all kinds of thoughts we get. We get good thoughts, bad thoughts. We perform different kinds of actions. Sometimes those are progressive, sometimes they are destructive. We experience all kinds of emotions, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. Now, no matter whatever it is, no matter whether our thoughts are good or bad, no matter whether our actions are progressive or destructive, no matter whether our emotions are positive or negative, each of them is also strung together by this principle, because this life principle does not distinguish between whether your thought is good or bad, whether your action is progressive or destructive, whether emotions are positive or negative, nothing of that sort. It simply enlivens, it is just is. So when that is it, the choice is ours. What is the color I want to be in? Like how I explained in the case of the pearl necklace, whether I want to be white, whether I want to be black, whether I want to be red, whether I want to be yellow, it is a matter of my choice. The principle simply operates through me. So in understanding that principle further, what is the essential property of everything that we come in contact in the world? the essential property of that is this principle, this life principle. That is also God itself. For example, in the verses itself, the examples are given. In water, what is that quality which makes water water? Wetness. If there is no wetness, there is no water. So the wetness in the water is God himself. The light in the moon or the sun, we see the light, we see the sun, I mean as much as we can see the sun, but the light is this God principle. The sound in space, for example, if you were to simply sit quiet in a room, there is space, you're sitting quiet, and in between, if you carefully hear, you can hear your breathing. There is sound. The sound in space is also God. The manliness in men, there are some men who are like wimps, कुछ बोलेगा तो करने को भी interest नहीं है, जाने देना, मरने देना. But there are people who work, like for example, I am talking, you are listening. There is some vibrancy in you. There is some vibrancy in me. Where is that vibrancy? That vibrancy is this God. There is a fragrance in earth. For example, when the first drops of rain falls down, you get that khushbu, mitti ki khushbu. The khushbu, that fragrance of that earth is God. The heat or the brilliance in fire. When we see fire, we are seeing the fire in operation. There is a function of that fire. But there is a brilliance in that fire. There is a heat in that fire. That is God. There is a life in all living beings. That life principle. That is God. That is God. The Om in all Vedas. No matter whatever is the scripture that you take, whether it is Bible, whether it is Quran, whether it is Granth Sahib, there is something which is a syllable which is holding it together. A syllable or a mantra or the what do you call that? That unifying force. That is God. God is that penance in those people who do penance. So penance in penances, for example, I am now here talking to you. There is an amount of effort which is required for me to prepare to come and talk to you. So I sit and I work. That is a penance. I am talking to you for 1 hour. That is a penance. You are listening to me for that 1 hour. That is a penance. And you are introspecting on that, thinking about it and trying to come out, in your own life, how it is going to make you be useful, how it will help you in your growth. That is penance. In whatever work you are doing, in the office you are doing some work and you are very focused in doing that work. That is penance. At home you are cooking something because some guests are coming home, and so you are focused on that work and ensuring that you are cooking. That is penance. So penance is not sitting in a place and saying that no, I am meditating. That alone is not. Every action of ours is a penance. So that penance itself is this God principle in operation. Now if you take a tree, for example, you take a tree, and in a tree, the tree itself is not possible unless there was a seed in that tree. For example, outside there is a mango tree. Somebody must have either sown a mango seed or somebody must have eaten a mango fruit and they must have put it down, and then that mango tree grew there. Anything is possible. Now, unless a seed is there, the tree cannot come up. Now, can you think of a tree in a seed? When you see only a seed, you have to believe that there is a tree inside that seed. So the seed of that, every being, whether it is a tree, whether it is a human, whether it is anybody, the seed is God. Somebody's audio is on, I think. The seed in that is God. So in school we used to eat, I think, a berry called karavanda, or some people must have eaten that gooseberry, Nellika avla. Now, we used to eat it and then we'll throw the seed away. Now then, sometimes from that, if it is properly fallen in the right place, there is a hole and then there is some rainwater which is coming, gradually a tree will come up. So we don't realize that we are the cause of that seed itself. That seed is God. So I am the intelligence in the intelligent. Now, for example, there is an intelligent thing that you are doing. You are doing some work in the office, or you are doing something very nice with respect to your teaching, anything that you are doing. Now, that intelligence with which you are doing, you are an intelligent person. But the intelligence with which you are doing that work, that intelligence is God. There is something splendid that you are seeing. For example, I give you the example of that rose. It's a beautiful, splendid vision, beautiful vision. In the morning sun rays, as the day is springing up, the flower is blooming. Beautiful sight. It's a splendor which we are seeing. The splendor in that splendid rose is God. Then you see some people very, very strong, strength, Bhayankar strength, Dara Singh or somebody like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, very strong. The strength in the strong is this God. But there is a caveat that he is given. The strength which is devoid of a desire or attachment, that is God. So the caveat that is given here is that strength which is devoid of any selfish desire or an attachment is that God principle. Now let us take this example which is now going on today, this Ukraine and Russia business. Russia with its might, with its strength, is now pounding Ukraine with all kinds of things and then destroying the country. There may be political reasons, there may be a background which has happened, I don't know, I'm not discussing that. But in principle, all of us are, I think, on this of the same opinion that this is like, a school bully hitting somebody who's weak. It is that kind of a thing. Now, strong Russia is, but is that strength godly? That strength is not godly. So, the strength in those who are devoid of desire or attachment is what is this God principle. And God principle is also the desire. What desire? The desire which is unopposed to dharma. Now a desire in the same example, the desire by Putin to raise almost Ukraine to the ground, or maybe replace the government with something else. It is with some selfishness, some self-interest which he wants to portray it as, they are denazification, etc., etc. is talking. It is opposed to dharma. You are not meant to harm somebody else. That is the understanding, because you have not been offended. You are the offender at the moment. So the desire which is unopposed to dharma is also this God principle. There was a story which Gurudev gave, and I have heard this many, many times, and I want to share that with you. There were two brothers in a family. Now these two brothers used to every day sit and eat together. Now every day when they used to eat together, both of them were married. The elder brother's wife, she used to come with 2 plates of food, and they used to eat. And the younger brother and both the wives will be standing and watching them eating. This was a daily scene. 3-4 days at a stretch, the younger brother at 1 o'clock at night, he used to get up and he used to vomit everything. It was happening 3 days, 4 days, it was happening. So the younger brother's wife started wondering what could have happened. So this happens in Indian families. We hear these in serials and all. We hear this very much. The younger brother's wife told the husband, I think what the elder sister-in-law, she's poisoning your food. She's the one who's giving you your plate. She's poisoning your food. So he says, Acha, Aisa, do you think so? Then what should I do? Tomorrow when the food comes, you change plates with your elder brother. He said, okay. Next day when the food comes, he changes plate with the elder brother. The elder brother says, you're such a bacha, abhi bhi bacha hi hai kya? When will you grow up? They eat again. Again that night at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, this fellow starts vomiting. This goes on for another 2-3 days, and then they say, what is this? There's something seriously wrong. They go to a doctor. Now the doctor, in doctors also always do this, if you go to a physician will say, you go to the expert. And then the expert will say, you go to another expert. And then they all have a millibugger that you give me this much of fees, you give me this much of fees, share of the fees. This is going on. This goes on in some places, not everywhere. But jokes apart. So he goes to a dentist. The dentist makes him sit there and he says, you open your mouth. He opens his mouth in front of the dentist. The dentist sees his mouth and he closes his eyes and he says, what is this? How is it that you are even alive now? Your mouth is full of ulcers. The food that you are eating, you are poisoning yourself and you are making yourself sick. So you are responsible for your own bad health. So similarly, if we are undergoing any kind of a negativity, the first thing that we need to look at is within ourselves. Am I poisoning myself with my thinking process, with my feeling process? So in whatever way we express ourselves, we can express ourselves very purely sattvic is the word that we use. We can express ourselves purely, or we can express ourselves with a lot of activity, like how I'm saying I'm rajasic, that I always want to keep doing something or the other. Or you can be dull, tamasic, you can be very indolent. Whatever that you are, whether you are pure, whether you are so active, whether you are indolent and dull, etc., it proceeds from me and that God alone, nothing else. Our contribution in that is that the quality or the texture of our thoughts, of our mind, our intellect, our personality layer, that is our contribution. Irrespective of whatever is the quality that we supply from our own mind and intellect, the power, the God principle is still there. That is in operation always. But again, there is a caveat that God is not in them, but we are in God. That is what it is. What it means is that, let us take for example that I am dreaming something. Now, when I wake up, I realize that the dream was mine. But I, the waker, is not the dreamer. Once I have woken up, in the dream I may have thought that, I am either killing 20 people, or I may have been killed by somebody. I can think whatever I like. The dream was mine when I woke up. But I am not the dreamer, because I did not die, nor did I kill anybody. So this is what we need to understand. So we understand that thoughts are in me. How we need to grow. The thoughts are in me, but I am not in those thoughts. I meaning the pure self in me, that is not in those thoughts. So if I'm getting angry, very angry about something, I should not allow the anger to touch me. I can be angry. I want to shout at somebody for having done something wrong. The moment I do that, next moment I should finish it off. Don't carry it. It will not touch me. I am lusty about something. The next moment I must say, that's not something which I need to do. Why should I run after that? So the lust should not touch me. So this is what I need to understand, that the thoughts can happen in me, but I need not be in them. So like how example is, the waves we see are in the ocean. But the ocean does not go away with the waves. The ocean is still there. The waves rise and come and fall back into the ocean. So when we have such a wisdom, when we are aware about this knowledge, then in contemplation, in whatever we are doing, this disturbance cannot happen. Somebody asked me a question that I've been trying for a long time, but then the disturbance is not going away. When we have this wisdom, the disturbance cannot happen. Our problem is that we are disturbed by the quality of the thoughts that are arising in us. Based on our personality, whatever is our personality, our behavior is because we identify with those qualities. We don't recognize our own divine nature because of these three qualities that we identify with. That is the pure thoughts, the sattvic ones, the active ones, the rajasic ones, or the indolent or the dull ones, the tamasic ones. We identify with those, and so we are not able to grow about. For example, in a movie screen, I gave you this example earlier. In a movie screen, we see the screen before the movie starts. But when the movie is happening, we can't see the screen because the movie is happening on the screen. Only when the movie is over can we see that there is a screen on which everything is being imprinted. So similarly, we understand that whatever are our experiences are happening on this life principle which is running around us. We are not able to see this in operations. So unless we inquire and see the essence which is operating, we will suffer by the vision of what we see or hear or feel as though that is true. आती रहेगी बहारें, जाती रहेगी बहारें, दिल की नजर से दुनिया को देखो, दुनिया सदा ही हंसी है. So this illusion of what we are seeing can be only crossed by understanding this essence in operation in all of us. It is like, crossing a rope bridge. I'll just share that last slide. Now this rope bridge, if we want to cross, we can cross this rope bridge only when we think of our destination on the other side. And our focus is on reaching that destination. If our mind is disturbed by whatever is happening, by seeing what is down below, strength of the rope bridge, etc., we are bound to fall down. So similarly, we understand that through our mind and intellect, we can reach that highest principle, like how we cross this rope bridge and reach the highest. It is an exercise that we have to do within us at every given moment. The choice is entirely ours whether we want to do it or not. Those who think, that this entire thing is all mumbo jumbo, this is God principle is all nonsense, etc., and they find erroneous means of becoming happy, wrong stuff to do, etc., etc., whose discrimination is destroyed, they will get destroyed. That is entirely their choice. So the choice is ours how we want to take it forward. So I will wind up my session for today with this. Thank you very much. If you have any comments, you can share it with me as usual on WhatsApp, or if you want to say anything now, you're most welcome to do so. I'm happy, as I said in the beginning, very nearly this session did not happen. I'm happy that despite that initial hiccup of internet before I started, and my commitment that I should be consistent and determined to ensure that this session does not, get postponed. I'm happy that I was able to do it today. Thank you very much. I wind up for today. ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Hari Om.
हरि ओम. Thank you.